Good morning or afternoon, wherever you shall be. Happy Tuesday. I am Danielle. Welcome once again to SJU on Fandom. I have got a great menagerie of folks with me. I have got Ed. I have got Riley. I have got Dan, and we have a bunch of great stories. We're going to talk a little bit on Bond. We're going to talk some SpiderMan. We're going to have a great interview with the folks from Ready or Not, and we're going to talk about the streaming wars, of course. So first, let's start off with Bond. So I'm sure many of you saw this morning, Bond 25 does have a title and a plot synopsis. The first teaser for Daniel Craig's final performance as James Bond was released, and the official title for Bond 25 is James Bond, No Time to Die, which is very declarative, and I feel like you don't get a choice in that. But I guess you do if you're James Bond.
Yeah. Well, it's weird, too. We already had Die Another Day. So it's like, just let this guy make up his mind. Is he going to die? When's he going to die? When is it going to happen? Let him schedule it.
Well, you've got Live and Let Die. You've got Die Another Day. No Time to Die. And then you also have
License to Kill.
License to Kill. It's a very classic...
You have Jesse Ventura, Jesse Ventura as 008. No Time to Bleed. You got
okay,
a lot.
I would pay for that. And you know
Indiana Jones 009, No Time for Love.
Yeah.
So the synopsis for this: Bond has left active service and is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica. I'm assuming he's got some of those Bo Derek straightbacks.
He's a 10.
Down a beach.
I mean, given the outfit in the first in Casino Royale, that was straight from Bond. That wouldn't be out of the question, except for there's no way Daniel Craig could grow his hair that long.
I would pay for that too. That's what Weave is for. His piece is short-lived when his old friend Felix from the CIA turns up asking for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous than expected, which should have been expected. This is Bond. Leading Bond onto the trail of a mysterious villain armed with a dangerous new technology.
Breaking some new ground for Bond there.
So returning to the cast, we've got Ray Fiennes, Naomi Harris, Ben Whishaw. We've got coming, so the newcomers are going to be Rami Malek, who of course is playing the villain, because, I mean, then... With, the big brouhaha was that there was going to be another successor 007, and then Bond was going to come back, and that is played by Captain Marvel's Lashana Lynch. So we've already talked about the title a little bit. Is there anything standing out to you about the plot description?
I think I do like that this particular era of Bond has like time progressing in continuity and that the world changes. So that is a thing that I've been a fan of. So I do think that if like Daniel Craig is going to leave as Bond, like I think if this is his last movie, I like that it feels like there's like a continuous arc to this character as opposed to just like kind of resetting in every movie like it has in previous iterations.
Yeah, Daniel Craig's had a weird Star Trek pattern with these movies. It's like one on, one off. It's like Casino Royale I really, really liked. Quantum of Solace, I was not a fan. Skyfall, I really, really liked. Spectre, I was not a fan. So I'm hoping now that his last movie, we're going to hit an odd movie thing here where I really, really like this one because it's been odd because I think some of the best James Bond movies have come out of this, but also some of my least favorite have also come out of this era. I think it's a very classic James Bond title. No Time to Die. It's just very Bondian. I'm a geek for this franchise.
Yeah, you love Bond.
I really do. I really, really do. I mean,
I don't go into like crazy, but I do love it.
So
we dunk the hardest on the things we love.
I hope that this is able to tap into the real core of James Bond in a way that I felt that Casino Royale and Skyfall did, because I feel like those both movies are so typical of a lot of things that are hallmarks of the James Bond franchise that I think are also what makes it special and not just a Bourne, in a world of Jason Bourne, irrelevant and Mission Impossible.
Yeah. And last time we talked about James Bond, we got a little dunked on, or especially me, in the comments about like, why did you have anybody on that likes Bond? Because like we were saying stuff like, the Ethan Hunts of the world and the Jason Bournes of the world seem to be advancing the myth, whereas James Bond seems to be regressing the myth or trying to like disassociate themselves from the spy myth to the point where like Hugh gives them like a gun and a book or something. Like it used to be laser watches, and it's like, oh, here's a gun and a book. Here's a gun and a book. There's a compass. I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like we can't do the lasers anymore. People don't like it. Sorry.
Which people?
Exactly.
People? I want lasers.
It's a tough challenge to marry the like gentleman spy element of Bond with like what the audiences are viewing as spy movies these days. And I think that's what Casino Royale was so good about, was it kind of did manage to do a Bond movie that exists in a world that Jason Bourne exists in. And I think that's also why Skyfall was so interesting, because it kind of made this like really interesting personal story. I like Quantum of Solace well enough. Spectre, I just felt like was a whole retcon movie of like, hey, what if all these last movies were connected? It's like, why? And then Spectre, it's funny you bring up Star Trek. Spectre did the same thing as Star Trek Into Darkness did, which was like continually tell us, oh, he's not really playing Blofeld, and then he's Blofeld. Like, and like the idea of Christoph Waltz playing Blofeld should have been like a slam dunk for me, but when that movie came out, I just didn't care. I just had no interest. I finally saw it on TV. I'm like, yeah, this is a fine action movie, but it didn't feel like Casino Royale, Skyfall, in my opinion, some of the best Bond movies of like a generation, and like I put them up against Goldeneye and stuff like that, but Spectre was just like, yeah, cool. You guys had fun, I guess.
Well, one of the main things about these movies, these newer ones, seem to be the Ian Fleming aspect of, and I think Joe Starr talked about this before, so it's got to be important, about how Ian Fleming's conception of James Bond was, I don't keep any money in my account. I don't really have a house. I'm never going to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or anything because I'm going to die tomorrow. I don't got no time for it.
Yeah,
but
he has
I'm
no
going
time to die.
Yeah.
But so he was always draining his accounts. He was always getting drunk. He was always having frivolous sex because I could die tomorrow. This job is so important and dangerous.
And I think that's where it hits its highs, is when I agree, embraces that. I think a lot of the criticism that these films have faced is when they try to take that attitude, but they don't quite nail it with the context of the movie.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of the criticism that these movies have gotten, particularly when it regards James Bond and the Bond girls, or however you want to describe it, has been this weird hybrid of trying to humanize him in that way. Not even humanize him, but flesh him out and get behind his psychological motivations. While at the same time, I think still sort of loosely treating in a more classical Bond way this idea of a revolving door, and I don't think that they've nailed that tone yet, and it has definitely opened them up to I think some well-earned criticism. But I'm hoping here at the end that they can take the best of what they've done in each of these movies so far, which I think would be the grittiness of Casino Royale, the sort of international intrigue of Quantum of Solace, the personal depth of Skyfall, the nod to tradition that Spectre had,
the villains especially, and just take the best of those four movies and then channel it into this movie, which I hope is a nice send-off for Daniel Craig.
Yeah. What do we think about this is just my own tangent, what do we think is going on with all of these movies about like these dudes that we loved who go into retirement? Is it just boomers writing about boomers? Like, I'm about to retire.
Yeah, I was about to say, James Bond is a retiring ass. He in 4 or 5 movies, I guess, he has retired like twice already. This retirement and the other one is just like
he's the Mel Gibson of this franchise. Where he's like, it's my I'm like Danny Glover. Where it's like it's always his last day.
Well, and this is nothing new. I mean, George Lazenby's Bond quit being Bond at the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and there have definitely been Sean Connery was always toward the end of his run was sort of like on sabbatical and then coming back, or I think there's only so many things you can do. So at a certain point with James Bond, so there's always going to be that thing like, well, it's time to hang it up, or we're retiring you.
I don't think you need it. I think with the next era of Bond, I think I would like if they had a time where he's like, what if he's just a spy who's actively employed and he's like working, he's got years of service ahead of him unless he dies. Like, it's okay. We don't need every Bond movie to be like, he's being brought back into the action. Like,
well, but it's also like, I think it's some attempt to do a couple of things. Yes, he's one of a billion of them, and he's the 7th one, or his designation is 007.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the Green Lantern effect. Like when there's all of them doing that all over the place, what's special about this one? Well, this one is so dope that when he retires, we got to go back and get him. Usually, I mean, you don't. If somebody retires from your office, you don't go, damn, that person collated. That look good. We need to bring them back to the office. Like they're not important.
They're the only
like
one
that.
who know how to use the fax machine. Nobody else knows how it works.
There's a dangerous rival across the street with a copier does it for them. We got to get you in here fast.
Right, you can't just hop up on LinkedIn and be like, must be a cold-blooded killer.
No time to Xerox.
Sex person, what's appreciated. You know what I mean? You can't do that. So I think it's trying to put him over, and to use a wrestler term, it's trying to put him over as somebody who is indispensable even amongst all of these tools used by MI6. He's still the best tool.
All right, so one last thing.
I was going to say that feels like boomer fantasy in a heartbeat of like these young kids can't do it. They got to bring the old guy back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to get to, this is a lovely Joe question. Now that we know the title and the plot, let us make up a new theme song. We don't have to sing it, but Ed, if you could think of a lyric to get us off.
Well, let's start off with No Time to Die. I was thinking of this question. It seems like Tomorrow Never Dies, but with No Time to Die. Just use that melody, because I love that song. I love Tomorrow Never Dies. I love Sheryl Crow's version. I love Katie Lang's version, Surrender. That should have been the song. Oh my God, that's a fantastic Bond song.
Who would you like to see do this song?
I was just thinking in my head. Like,
who did Spectre?
Who did Spectre?
Yeah, because I think it was
Sam Smith.
I think it might have been.
I think it was Sam Smith. Yeah, because
I think we go back to a woman again, because don't they do like almost like?
Dude,
I think you do a Shirley Bassey thing and get Adele back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could just that.
But she won an Oscar for it. I'd be more than happy to bring her back.
No Time to Die.
It's not unprecedented.
It's just the same. She just phones it in.
There's simply no time to die.
How about next Thursday?
She has the
day's not good for me.
She's got the perfect voice for James Bond.
She's got the perfect voice. Yeah.
She has the range.
Yeah.
And maybe they spend the money and get a Beyonce. All right,
I like that I sang more Katharine Hepburn than I did Adele.
It was very nice.
I like
Me too, but I realized I was doing it.
All right, story number 2. Spider-Man Far From Home gets a re-release. This is via Variety. Spider-Man Far From Home will be back in theaters with 4 new minutes of footage. It's just that fight scene from the trailer. All right.
Which one? Which fight scene?
It's the one that was not in the movie.
Well, it's where he's telling the cops, "I'm doing your job, guys."
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, what was it again?
I'm doing your job, guys.
Is he webbing them while he's doing it? I'm doing your job. Now you want webs. It's actually going to be him putting on a black outfit and dancing.
Oh, see? That's perfect. I want more dancing from this one. Oh, this one actually can dance.
I know, actually,
and we
yeah.
used the dancing on the wrong one.
Yeah. We would all, if we just inserted his Rihanna dance number into them, we'd all be okay with it.
That would confuse a lot of the members of the audience.
Or make them find out some wonderful things about themselves.
That's true.
When people ask, what does pansexual mean? That's what it means to me. So what do we think about clearly we're very excited about it because we're talking about everything else but this re-release. What are your feelings about it, Riley?
I feel like I guess maybe that now DVD sales are down. It's like, okay, cool, now we're going to take all the bonus scenes from DVDs that made them worth selling and try to get like squeeze blood from a stone on movies that already made like $1 billion. So cool. Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm not excited about it. I don't like this precedent now that Marvel is setting with this in Endgame, where it's starting to be like, hey, maybe don't see it when it comes out and wait a few months and you'll get a longer, better version of the movie. Not better, but different version than everybody else got to see. So it's like, I don't want to, I love this movie. I thought it was really fun, but I don't have a desire to rush back to theaters to see it. And I don't know. I think it's a weird cash grab.
Yeah. Are you going back to see it, Ed?
No, not if my peoples, my emissaries, tell me that it's just that 4 minutes.
Varys? Do you have little birds running around town?
Hey man, look man, I talk to ravens, and these ravens tell me about movies.
A bunch of kids see Spider-Man. Dan. I don't know why this is crazy.
I'm a California brand. I talk to seagulls, ravens, parakeets, all birds.
What are you at Disneyland? You're hanging out in the tiki room?
Dude, they land on my finger and I go, "Hey, Spider-Man Far From Home, yay or nay?" They go, "Tweet, tweet."
Wait, are you just on Twitter? Are you describing just being on Twitter? Is that what you think Twitter is? It's just a bunch of birds talking to you?
Wouldn't that be the funniest thing?
A bunch of birds are arguing about chicken sandwiches right now?
Chicken heads. Yeah. So basically... Almost mid-take on computer.
Almost ruined the computer?
So, I just...
I haven't heard that phrase in a while. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
Personally, I don't think this is enough to entice me to go back into the theater. However, if somebody wanted to do an outing to go do it, I would capitulate to that.
Okay,
you know what I mean? I would do that. Hey, you want to go see? Come on. It's just, yeah. I would do that. And I think that's kind of their plan. And Riley, that's... brilliant point that it's just, I think when physical media goes down, they're going to try these different grabs, baby. These grabs come out when certain media go down. So I think that's kind of what it is, but it's almost like saying it's deterministic. Obviously, them doing it would be something for money, duh. So once you move past that, is an experience you want to experience with your friends? Great. If you and your particular group of friends don't care about that scene, then you won't go.
Yeah, I feel like it's. I don't think Disney has to worry about their physical media sales going down. I think every other studio for every other series of movies does. But I would wager that if there's one movie franchise's physical media sales are doing all right, it's probably the MCU. This feels a little less cynical to me than the Avengers one did. The Avengers to me
That was
felt
very
like
blatant. We knew exactly what they were
a bit
doing.
of a cynical move to try to break this record, and so we're gonna just sort of tack this stuff on.
They might as well have a poster of them just like stabbing someone from Avatar like through the heart.
It's like, here, we're just gonna twist the knife is what it should have been.
Well, it's like when you
twist the knife.
Yeah, when you almost have a triple double, they put you back in the game and say, just shoot it at the backboard and grab it. You get a board, we'll take you out of the game. It's like, ugh, that's not fair.
Spider-Man: Far From Home doesn't have anything to prove. It's already the only Spider-Man movie to gross $1 billion worldwide. It did just fine. So this reads a little more to me. And if I were an exhibitor, I'd say like, yes, sure, yeah. Because what else are you going to put on your IMAX screen this weekend?
Yeah.
That's going to draw
Shaw.
in that amount of people. You know, where the big IMAX releases were in between them right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's probably a lot of exhibitors that are saying like, yeah, okay. And it just feels like Disney's saying, let's try to squeeze a few more juice out of this.
That's a great point about how it might help
year.
distributors. That's a great point.
It's a bad year for box office. I can see them being like, hey, we need to make a little extra money.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people who has like an AMC or any of those things that let you see multiple movies, like when any of those passes, it might be worth it to you to go see it again.
I mean, so as far as the summer goes, it's actually been on par about with last year. The first half of the year, it's weird because it's like when everyone talks about the down year that we've had for the box office, part of it is not accounting for the fact that Black Panther came out last year, and it was like one of the top 5 movies of all time domestically. So
took all our black dollars.
Yes,
certainly did.
that you are going to see a downturn, but that's because you had a massive summer-size hit in the first quarter of 2018. I was reading that, from the time that Infinity War came out to now, the summer box office has been about equal. I think part of it is Lion King. It had a huge effect on the late part of the summer
Aladdin
box
did better than I
office.
thought it was going to do. So
Aladdin did better than a lot of people thought. Yeah, I mean, there were some high-profile flops, but really what's going to determine this year is what happens in the last 3 months of the year. How does Star Wars do? How does Jumanji do? How does It do? Because I think that's going to be kind of the...
Frozen 2.
Frozen 2. That's going to... There's a lot of big titles coming out at the end of this year.
Cats!
Oh, boy, Cats. Let's get that
Christmas bomb money.
Charting. We're doing the Meowdown.
Are you doing the Meowdown?
We're doing the Meowdown to Cats. I believe we're at 123 days. I really do think that the story of this year, box office wise, is going to be written based on how all of those movies do. Because if they all hit big, then they're doing just fine.
I feel like the analysis of box office is that when you take away these like massive tentpole films, then the box office across the board isn't doing as well. Whereas if you, which is true a lot of years, but this year, especially like Endgame is almost like a spoiler for the rest of the year's money because Endgame made so much that makes it seem like it's doing better than like other movies really are.
Oh yeah, no, there's a whole other discussion to be had about parody and the haves and the have-nots. I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
All right, so you heard it here from Dan, the haves and the have-nots. All right, so Fandom, we are publishing our very first game. You can experience it early by going to fandom.link/UnderMine. I'll do that one more time. Fandom.link/UnderMine. It is an action-adventure game where you will plumb the depths of the earth for gold and glory. So make sure that you check that out. That's very exciting. Ready or Not, we've got an interview via Fandom. That's us. Well done, Ryan. Good title. So Ready or Not is opening in theaters this Wednesday, and Eric Goldman sat down with the filmmakers to discuss their darkly comic film about a newlywed forced to play a deadly game of hide and seek. Check out the interview, and then we're going to be right back after this because we are going to be talking some He-Man, so don't go nowhere.
He-Man. He-Man.
Gwildor. Oh, he's not in this. So go ahead and check this out, and then we will be right back talking He-Man.
I can't believe that in half an hour, I will be a part of the Ladomus Gaming Dynasty.
Hey guys, Eric Goldman here, and I'm with the filmmakers behind Ready or Not, one of my favorite movies this year. Matt, Tyler, Chad, thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, thanks for having us.
No problem. There's a lot I want to ask about this movie without giving away everything. There's a great trailer out for this film, but how do you describe this movie to people? What's your quick plot description of this?
A bride marries into a very eccentric family, and on the night of her wedding, she has to play a game. And she picks hide and seek, which is a game you can't really win.
Right.
And things go really badly for her the rest of the night.
We're all dead.
Found her.
God damn
that, Emily?
I don't know what I'm doing.
How did this project first come to be? You know, the screenwriters, I don't believe you'd worked with them before, so how did you first come to read it, and what clicked in for you guys about this project?
We got sent the script once, like 5 or 6 years ago, did not get the job. And then it came back around after a couple years, and we were like, oh, we'd love to try again. And we did, and it was the first time we met Guy and Ryan, the writers, and Tripp and Jamie, the producers. And we worked with them on it for maybe like a year or so, and then took it to Searchlight, where we spent almost 2 years in development with them. And it was a great development process. It really, it like honed the script in a major, major way. Before that, it wasn't about the bride on her wedding night. It was kind of broader, but the tone was there, the characters were there. And so we all just worked together to make the movie.
Yeah, I think the tone and characters are really what drew us to it,
Yeah.
to the script from the get. It was...
the tone is just like...
Yeah,
exactly
it was
what we
something,
want.
it's exactly the experience we want to have when we go to a movie.
Right.
There's like very real emotional drama. It's fun, it's funny, it's scary, it's thrilling. Like it just hit all of these notes. It's a real mix of genres, and
all living within one world.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like left, right.
And we loved the challenge of taking this huge cast of really interesting characters and just grounding all of those tones really emotionally. And it was just a really fun ride and a real page turner with a bunch of really cool set pieces and moments that we hadn't seen before, honestly. And yeah, it was we're so stoked about it.
A really interesting tone. It's a tricky tone this movie has, because I feel like whenever you blend comedy and horror, which is something I really love, but it's like, okay, so how far do we go into the comedy before we lose the horror, and vice versa? So how much did you discuss, okay, how do we blend these things and, as you said, make it all feel like it's one piece?
Right. I think we approach it first and foremost like a thriller. So we just wanted to live in the tension of every moment the entire time, so you don't know what's going to happen next. Like, we don't know what's around the corner. It could be a joke, or it could be a jump scare, and just really like letting that build out and get the audience leaning in that way.
Now, of course, when you have a movie like this, you have to cast the right people, the people who are going to really click in with what you're doing. Let's talk about Samara Weaving, and how quickly did you realize you'd found your right Grace? Because I think this is like a smart star-making role for her.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was instantaneous. Yeah, there's an honesty and a fearlessness with who she is just in her everyday life. There was so much of Grace in her when we first met her, and she just had a really interesting take on the character. She didn't want to play it, I think, would have been easy to do the cliche. This girl who's like, doesn't know who she is and is sort of afraid and isn't capable at the beginning, becoming, more and more, I guess, proficient at dealing with the situation the movie goes on. And instead, she was like, no, my backstory is this, and I'm a scrapper, and I'm kind of a badass from the start. And then it's the movie's job to stack a ton of obstacles in front of her that make the journey to the end as impossible as possible. And she just had a great time embodying that. Now,
Her look in the movie instantly stands out. I think people see the posters and photos, the wedding dress, the sneakers, some weapons that's come into play. How much did you talk about what she would look like both visually, so she'd, stand out, but also practically? Because as you're saying, she's kept very busy in the film and has to run around for a lot of it.
The dress was like such a big deal for us, because it really is a metaphor throughout, and you have to watch it fall apart in a way through the whole story. And we talked with Avery, our costume designer, at length about like, how do we make this feel, if we're lucky in its best form, some form of like an iconic image where you're like, oh wow, the bride in the torn up dress with like the chucks and the shotgun, and but it was really finding a way to ground that where you go like, oh right, that's her, she's the chucks. The dress is the family. The dress is falling apart as she goes through these ordeals. And really just like leaning into it story-wise, but also just in production-wise. We had, I think, 17 dresses. 17 dresses.
Doubled for Sam,
for stunts.
And then doubled again for stunt.
Right. Avery was very excited about the dress, too, because she used like a lace material that she was thrilled with the way it caught blood, caught dirt, caught goat, caught everything else that Grace had to go through in the movie. And it just really becomes a part of the dress after, you go through it once. It just gets that dirty feel.
I think I see some future cosplay out there. I think some people are going to be inspired by this.
So.
I definitely think so. The movie recently debuted at the Fantasia Film Festival to really great response. I'm assuming you probably also had test screened it. So what's it like seeing it with an audience and seeing them really react to it and connect with it?
Thrilling. I mean, it's crazy. That was a wild screening, because there's a moment, and it happened the same in the test screenings, where you're like, And but it was even more fun at Fantasia because at the test screenings, people don't know what they're getting into because that's
Right.
blind. And so you kind of see them be like, wait, I'm laughing. Why am I laughing? Should I be laughing? Is this okay? And in Fantasia, they knew that you could laugh. So it was like, as soon as like funny stuff starts happening, you could feel it. And the same thing with the scares. I mean,
Right. Also, it was great that they played better at Fantasia because the movie was done.
Sure.
So we're like, all right, cool.
Right.
It's done now, and
I won't get into spoilers here, but there's a question of the family's motivations. They're doing this ritual. Why are they doing it? What they believe. Was it fun for you to have that sort of running through the whole film, and how much is this real versus what is really going on here?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge part of really. I mean the sort of
The whole movie.
the whole movie, but the last 2/3 of it in particular. So much of what is carrying the action and the interactions between those members of the family is a dialogue about what we believe to be the case and what we think the consequences of this handshake with this benefactor will ultimately be if we win or if we lose. And again, this is how normal people would have a conversation about this. Like, we loved that it was so fun to have an ensemble that represented so many different perspectives. It gave us a real opportunity to have an interesting and wildly bizarre conversation about what's at stake for this group of people, and is obviously like the fuels, the sort of engine that really carries us to the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm. And this movie is being released by Fox Searchlight. They've gone through a little bit of a change behind the scenes. Is it just funny for you, having worked on this movie for quite a while, that now you're going to be part of the Disney family as you're coming out?
So
it's crazy. It's nuts. And Grace is like, I guess, the new iteration of a Disney princess.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah, here we go.
Well, guys, Ready or Not is opening in theaters on August 21st. Make sure to check it out. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thanks so much
thank you
for
for
having
having
me.
us.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Hello! That was an exciting interview. Well done,
I
Eric.
apologize to
Everything
the
went to
poor
that
gentleman
movie.
that got the sinking chair.
I just
Cheers
didn't know
are
Ben
coming,
Folds
you guys.
directed that movie, so I'm excited about that information.
Guys, chairs are coming. I promise, I promise, I promise. All right, I promised you He-Man, speaking of promises, and I keep my promises. So we have the next installment of The Streaming Wars. Netflix has the power. Thank you very much for that, Eric. Or, whoever you are. Ryan. So Kevin Smith has announced the new... love your face. Kevin Smith has announced a new He-Man series for Netflix. The new series, titled Masters of the Universe Revelation... Sorry. That's great. That's a fantastic title. Will take place in the Mattel toy-inspired world and will focus on some of the unresolved storylines of the classic 80s show. Smith is going to be both showrunner and executive producer, and I just have to read this quote because it makes me super happy. It's so punny.
Guldor. I should just note that is not part of the Mattel universe.
Yeah.
Nope.
Gwildor, while he should be part of every He-Man iteration, more than likely will not be, or perhaps they'll introduce him.
He's so...
Will Skeletor be in it?
Skeletor.
Skeletor.
Yes. Bam!
Gwildor's so gross looking. All right. So Kevin Smith says, I am eternally grateful to Mattel TV and Netflix for entrusting me with not only the secrets of Grayskull, but also their entire universe. In Revelation, we pick up right where the classic era left off to tell an epic tale of what may be the final battle between He-Man and Skeletor, brought to life with the most metal character designs, powerhouse animation can contain in the frame. This is the Masters of the Universe story you always wanted to see as a kid. I really want to see what this metal suit, like metal He-Man looks like.
I think it means metal, like metal.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
No, he's definitely.
No, I think he literally means it's going to be a metal He-Man. I think it's
Well,
gonna
you
be-
don't cover up that tan body.
Yeah.
That's not what you do.
what do you think armor does for you?
Yeah, it's already pretty like early Judas Priest, so I'm excited to see how much more metal
Yeah,
it gets.
yeah. I mean, just show me more metal than Trapjaw. Like, multicolored guy with a multicolored, jagged face.
Yeah.
That's metal.
That's
Come
pretty
on.
metal.
Yeah. Even
All
the
right.
name Masters of the Universe just sounds like an 80s like power ballad.
Masters of the Universe!
Yeah.
So what do we think about Kevin Smith taking this on?
I think if he approaches it as a fan of Masters of the Universe and like wants to if he's legit about like this is the show that you wanted to see and not like He-Man with Kevin Smith's humor added to it, I think it'll be good. Like I think that if he can be sincere with it, like some of his more like, I think that'll be a fun movie to watch. I think that I mean series. I don't want to just watch like the wacky like dick and fart joke He-Man that
Right.
I think you think of when you think of Kevin Smith. But it doesn't sound like he's gonna do it that way. It sounds like he's really gonna do like an honest like redemption, like not redemption, but like reboot like continuation of the original series.
Yeah,
So-
well, and what's exciting is he took on the Green Arrow comics, and he's done a few comics which have felt very true to the comic book origins and haven't been, he didn't Kevin Smithize them. He didn't, they're still in his voice, but he kept them very true to the comics. So that's exciting. What
and
do you
with
think,
Red
Dan?
State, we can see that he can do that.
Yeah, he can do that.
There's a couple things that there's a lot of things that I'm incapable of being objective about. Two of them are Masters of the Universe and Kevin Smith. He was met on movie fights several times. I've met him, because he was on the show, and then because he also did some stuff with us in years past. And I like him very much as a person. I like him. In the area in which we operate, I also respect him in the sense of, apart from being a huge influence on me growing up, I love this space that he's occupying now, where his brand, but that sounds too cynical, really, but just his voice is one of such positivity as far as just loving what you love, expressing yourself, using your voice to make things that you're passionate about. That's what he does now. He doesn't give a flying F if critics. He says some very choice words for movie critics, of which I am one now. He does not care if critics like what he makes. He doesn't care.
He's making movies.
He's making the movies that he wants to make, and if you like it, that's great. And if you don't, he does not care. So, there's a part of me that's like, I like that. I like the fact that he's going to take something that he loves and make the best version that he can of it. I think that it's got the potential to be really cool. I really do. But again, He-Man was like my first thing. He-Man was like the first thing that I was into when I was a kid. It was He-Man. So I can't not be a little jazzed about somebody who was as influential on me growing up as Kevin Smith taking on like my first lowercase f fandom. I'm excited. I want to see it.
I love watching, and one of the great things of being at this table is watching all of my friends get to hear news about stuff that they love and just watching us genuinely geek out and not be super like, I don't know. It's just really fun and it makes me super happy. Every time it happens, like when a Transformers thing comes up and Joe gets really excited, and I don't know, it just makes me happy.
Well, no, He-Man is really near and dear to my heart, much like Dan. It was like the first thing I can actually like remember.
And you have a great joke about it.
Oh gosh.
Don't tell it.
I'm not telling that joke, but definitely it's part of my life, and I just think. There's a lot of things that are great about Superman. About He-Man. He was the only hero I saw that got more powerful the darker he got. Can we talk about that? he gets a lightning tan, and all of a sudden he's the greatest guy in the world. Can we talk about that? That's amazing. I love that.
A little bit of melanin.
Hey, a little bit of representation as a little kid in the 80s goes a long way. I definitely I was walking around the Prince Valiant when I had hair, boy, looking like Terry Crews. Anyway,
I need that to be true. I just need it.
Oh, it would be excellent. But I enjoy this property. I enjoy the eternal battle of like just. He's so evil, his face is a skull. You know what I mean? And he's a jerk.
Cackling skull.
Right. And just Skeletor, the Skeletor meme of like him
Skeletor.
The Skeletor meme.
I don't want to embarrass you. You said you were a fan. I thought you knew.
I'm sure you've all seen the Honest trailer, but if not, go check out the Honest
I
trailer.
call them Skells, because we grew up in Staten Island together. I just love Skeletor, and I would love to have us learn a little bit more about why he's such a jerk, because I do know a lot about the lore that has kind of been left on the cutting room floor of He-Man, of why Eternia is a specific planet with all this crazy stuff going on. So I'd love to see him explore that. I would love him to take this weird, dumb, back of the box lore and do something cool with it. But that's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
It is on brand very much.
I feel like this approach of like a direct follow-up, it does, like, we toss around the word fan service sometimes, like as a derogatory thing, like, oh, it's just fan service. This feels 100% like fan service, and like it 100% should be fan service. Like, I think that like we don't need a reimagining of He-Man. I think, if anything, in this particular era, I think we could use more stories of heroes that are just like good, bold, like triumphant heroes good people fighting against evil, and I think we don't get a lot of that anymore. Like every superhero story, the heroes conflicted about their role in the world and stuff like that. And I think that like we need more stories, kind of going back to this more aggressive, like just give people the ability to have these aspirations towards fighting against bad guys. And
one thing that I do, Joe and Spencer were saying this yesterday, they do need to end every episode with Man-at-Arms doing a PSA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
About a theme that you can take from that week's episode.
And just make them update it. Like,
yes.
You may think you're ready for vaping, but let me tell you, you are not.
In today's adventure, Stratos got very sick from the gas that Skeletor unleashed.
yeah,
Make sure that you're monitoring what goes into your lung.
Yep.
Get a carbon monoxide detector, everybody. All right, and then finally.
Sorry.
Nope. I'm letting y'all have that. That is yours to keep forever. All right, and so finally, we're gonna end this. We've got a few folks who have passed away and very recently, so we got to give it up for them. So we want to give a huge rest in peace to Peter Fonda, Richard Williams, and author Toni Morrison. Two-time Oscar nominee Peter Fonda, who co-wrote, produced, and starred in the seminal 1969 road movie Easy Rider, go watch it if you haven't, died on Friday from lung cancer at his home in Los Angeles. He was 79.
Yeah.
What a life.
What a life, first of all. I
Yeah.
mean, he wasn't just in Easy Rider. He produced the movie. He co-wrote the movie. He essentially got it made. Or was the linchpin to getting it made. It cost like $300,000 to $400,000. It made $60 million at that time, which was for an independent film. I think for a while was the most successful independent film of all time. And if you look at that in conjunction with movies like Bonnie and Clyde and The Graduate, ushered in a completely new era of cinema, even to the point of like, I know it seems antithetical, but the success of Easy Rider, as far as studios seeing that giving this new generation of filmmakers license to make the films they want to make could be financially successful, did lead to Steven Spielberg and George Lucas being given the license to run over budget as they did on Jaws, or to do something as weird as Star Wars. That all stems from this new generation of filmmakers that proved that studios can indulge artists in their new creative visions and let them do what they want, and they can be successful. And that all goes back to movies like Easy Rider, in addition to being just such a mark of the counterculture at that time. Dennis Hopper, Jack Nicholson, it made so many careers, and it exemplified its time in a way that very few films do.
Yeah.
I like how malleable he was with his image as well. Like in 1999's The Limey, he's the bad guy,
I love Limey.
and they're using his image as this counterculture. Used to be the counterculture, now is the regular monoculture. Like once counterculture, you did a little cutesy, hippie band stuff, and now you've become a gangster because you've become old enough to become, be the villain. And I love that he was able to. And he says a line in there that's hilarious. He goes, there will come a time in your life where every tooth is worth its weight in gold. And I'm like, that's an older man talking. That's a person who's like, yeah, there's simple pleasures like eating a steak without having to get a trap jaw to come do it for me. You know what I mean? Simple things like that. He allowed himself to age. He allowed himself to use the iconography he'd set up before and the stuff that Dan's talking about to be in this genre movie, The Limey, and to be a great part of it and be a great villain in it. Yeah. Stuff like that. A lot of people they won't allow themselves to be used in that way. They won't allow that sort of iconography of their past to be used in that way. Yeah. But he was a cool guy.
The devil in a Ghost Rider movie. But also films like Uly's Gold, which got him, I believe, his only acting nomination for an Academy Award. He allowed his career. And then he would pop up in weird stuff like Escape from L.A. is just like the random surfer guy.
Or like Ghost Rider.
With Hang Ten with Snake Plissken. Yeah,
oh my God,
Ghost Rider.
That surfing thing in Escape from L.A. is like the greatest thing.
It's just so dumb, but you could tell he's just like, I don't care. I want to go be
I want to do something
in a
fun.
John Carpenter movie and be the weird hippie burnout. Tsunami wave.
Yeah, may we all be that revolutionary and have such a sense of humor about ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then there was also Richard Williams, who is an Oscar-winning animator from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is another one I assume all of you have seen, but if you have not, it's one I can't gauge how young the audience is, but if you haven't seen it, please please do
holds
yourself
up.
a favor. It absolutely holds up. You still saw it? Okay. Yay, young boy
And you're the
Ryan.
youngest person we know, so if you saw it.
He is possibly the youngest person I know.
He's a little baby.
I speak young. Roger Rabbit for me was like a seminal film of my childhood.
Yes.
It's one of those movies too where like you see it as a kid and you think it's like a silly animated movie kind of thing, and you watch it as an adult, like this is such a well constructed like adult themed movie, but it went over your head as a child. And the work that he did with the animation, it made it believable that these cartoons were interacting in the same world as the people around them. In a way that I think when you have like CGI characters in that way don't always feel as real. Somehow, even though it's a two-dimensional animated character, you totally believe that Eddie Valiant was hanging out in an apartment with this silly rabbit and getting like weird flotation things happening with Jessica Rabbit. Like there's just so much happening in that movie. And it works so well. And I think as a child, it was one of those movies that really like blew my mind in regards to the power of imagination and filmmaking. Of like you can create these entire worlds. Like you could easily have convinced me as a kid that this was the history of Los Angeles. Like there used to be this whole cartoon city where they hired animated characters to come out and act in animated movies, and that all the cartoons I watched were actually being filmed on a set with cartoon creatures running around them. Yeah. And the amazing levels of detail in that film with like Roger chasing baby Huey around, and then it cuts to like you see like the set and all the actual they like drew and designed this kitchen set that's a real set.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much of it is amazing, and so and it's all down to his work. Like the animation just looks so good, and the character design is so fantastic.
I was watching some interviews with him earlier, and he was talking about because he was the animation director, and Robert Zemeckis was looking for someone to take this on, and he said he met with Robert Zemeckis. Robert Zemeckis said like, well, everybody that I talk to tells me that I can't move the camera because it's impossible to animate figures on a moving camera. And Richard Williams just basically said, well, that's because they're lazy. And he's like, really? He's just like, you can animate something if it's in motion? He's like, yeah, you can. It's just really hard. and Robert Zemeckis is like, it's not hard work. He's like, of course it's hard work. He's like, what do you think animation is? Animation's really hard. So it's harder, but I'm not going to tell you it's impossible. Look, we can do it. It's just going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's how you break barriers and do new things. And the Academy Award that he won was something you do not see. I don't even know if they do this much anymore. Just a special achievement Academy Award where somebody does something that's so incredible. The Oscars just go like,
something.
Take it. Just take this. This is yours. And the fact but just try to find what they did with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because it's not just animation. What they were doing, the complication involved, they had robotics that were like handing real life things and splashing water. They had to animate over mechanical arms, and just that film is a stunning achievement. And to realize that that's hand-drawn animation.
Yeah, it's amazing when you watch it, because you do fall into that film hypnosis of just enjoying it as a film and believing in the world. And you're right, like, you don't even, as a viewer, really understand just how much work went into making every single thing of that movie happen. And it's an achievement both in great storytelling, but in visuals and in effects and in building an actual like identity for the film. And I think you're exactly like, he deserved an Oscar. Like I said, it's a lot harder to do this work, but when you do that work, you make a better movie out of it.
He said that it was a funny thing. He said that he used to just periodically in the animation office, because they were ruinously behind over budget and behind schedule. He said that he used to sometimes just go to the door of his office and shout, "Draw faster!" It's I hadn't seen a whole lot of it. I'd seen some making of stuff, but I hadn't seen a lot of interviews with just him, and I looked some up in the last few days, and he really was a very charming man. And really, if you read a story, kind of a heartbreaking story, he had a film that he himself was working on for decades. That was a passion project, a hand-drawn animation project of his that was actually never completed. It was taken away from him at one point. They were able to do like a work print, but he had this project that he always wanted to get off the ground and just couldn't do it. Just shows you he was passionate about the art. Yeah. It wasn't all about just what's my next gig. It's like, no, I want to do something very different in this art form, which is that's rare. That's rare to find that.
We're so moving away from this, even as an existence of hand-drawn animation, which is a tragedy, because it actually is its own unique form of art, and it feels like it's been replaced by other types of animation and technology. And it's a shame, because there's these whole generations of people who poured their entire life into making this art form work.
So
last thing I would say is what you said about the camera. I just can't imagine imagine that movie with static cameras. I think it's amazing how much that little thing made that feel more real.
Yeah. And so no, please, that was gorgeous. Thank you. And so last one, this one, huge inspiration for me. Author Toni Morrison. If you haven't read The Bluest Eye, please go read that. She passed away on August 5th. Just an amazing author, huge inspiration for me. Just getting to see just such a prominent African American woman write these beautiful words. And one thing I will share very quickly, other than read books, they are cool. They make you sexy. Read a book. Don't just buy them so you can have them on your bookshelf to be impressive. Like, actually read the books. But with Toni Morrison, she did not write The Bluest Eye, her first book. Imagine that being your first book. She didn't write that until she was 39. So whatever that thing is that you want to do, that you think it's too late to do, don't be stupid. Go do the thing. And that's
a great point.
Yeah. All right. So thank y'all so much for watching. We're gonna have the link so that we're gonna have the link to UnderMine that will actually be in the description, but it's going to be at Fandom.Link/UnderMine. Go check that out. And thank you all so much. We're really excited for you to see the new game, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.